Now we was talking about this in the back office the other day, Mel. How we was discussing how certain people. Well, you wasn't on the live that night, by the way, but we was discussing how certain parents. I mean, excuse me. They was we was discussing how teachers are. Some teachers don't think that parents are suitable to teach their children properly about certain things, right? And my argument was, I agree with him, but that doesn't change the fact that they have the decision to make there. I have to trust that they will teach their kids how to mingle with my kids and they don't get into an altercation simply because one is black and one is white. I have to worry about that. I mean, I have to trust that. I'm not going to sit here and worry about it, though. I'm going to trust it. Nevertheless, I'm going to teach my children how to handle it if they do encounter children that are racist because of racist parents. That's the only thing I can do. Until my child meets that person, there's nothing else I can do. Hey David, this is how you interact with people. If a person is treating you a certain way, you do not have to engage that person. You can walk away. If that person insists in engaging, as long as they don't put their hands on you, you're cool. But if they ever do put their hands on you, make sure you finish the fight. That's it. Make sure they learn their lesson quite clearly. Thank you for your generous donation.
That was
Thank you.
so generous, and yeah, I can't agree more. And I mean, without saying too much about it, is that, believe it or not, and you know what I'm talking about, Gary, I have to have that same conversation with my son and people's perception when it comes to him,
Hmm.
because my son is non-Caucasian,
Hmm.
and so
I didn't
he,
know that.
remember we are discussing his lineage.
Oh, that's right. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, got it. Go ahead.
So I have to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
mixed kids get it worse, right, these days.
right. And it's weird trying to have that conversation, especially with my son, because he is such a teddy bear. Like he
Hmm.
doesn't understand it,
Hmm.
right? My son, my son is in a lot of ways like dealing with a Down syndrome kid.
Hmm.
Happy 99.9% of the time,
Yeah.
very innocent in how he sees the world. All
Hmm.
people are people, and he loves everybody for who and what
Uh-huh.
they are. Blah 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 blah. And I mean, I worry about my boy when he grows up being taken
In this
advantage of.
world.
But in the, exactly right,
Yeah.
but
I have the same problem.
right, and I mean, it's like, ugh, you know, you almost feel dirty having to,
Break their freaking spirit. It
yeah,
just sucks. But in many ways, you kind of got to. Because I much rather say, David, there are certain situations that you might encounter that are not going to be fun. Okay. The way you respond to it is your own choice. All I can do is be your support system. Hopefully, I give you the tools that you need to use to work through that. Like for
understand
example, I
your,
was talking to like when he had his first crush. I told him years ago before he even had testosterone running through his veins. I told him years ago, one day you're gonna like girls. You'll know the day you like girls because you won't be able to think about nothing else but that girl. He came home from high school and he said, "Dad, we need to talk." I was like, "Yes, the talk." He's like, "Oh my God, there's this girl. She is amazing. I can't stop thinking about her. I can't concentrate on my work and all this other stuff, blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Didn't I tell you?" He said, "Right, you did tell me." I said, "So how do it feel?" He said, "It's so annoying because I want to do my work, but all I'm thinking about is she looking at me? Do she like me? Am I making the right moves?" And I said, "I told you would have that." Weeks later, he's like, "Dad, this girl's getting on my nerve." Weeks later, she won't leave me alone. She talks too much. She's always talking. Listen, I got to get my work done. She won't stop talking. I forgot to tell him that part. I wasn't thinking about that part, but It actually came up, and
Yeah, they
to
never
watch
shut up.
to watch my son go
Once they
through
start
something like
talking.
this. When I went through it, I was like, "That's friggin' adorable." You know what I mean? But yes, there are certain things that you're going to miss as a parent. I miss that part. I miss the annoying girl part. You know what I'm
I
saying? So
I pity the woman that tries that with my son.
Featuring my buddy Gary Lamb
Because
tonight.
my
So
son
he's
makes
live right now. If you want to go subscribe to his channel,
pass out from
if you like
exhaustion from
this
all the
conversation,
stories.
wow.
He, like his father, is a master of the long-winded
tell him
jab.
the king sent you.
So some woman's gonna come up and try that with him, and he's gonna,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, how about? And 6 days later, he'll get back to the point of his story.
Thank you so much for the super chat of 50 big ones. Let's continue.
Had been developed as a form of self defense against the outside world. Beth Thomas was adopted at 19 months old, along with their 7-month-old brother Jonathan, by Tim and Julie, a conservative American couple who had been married for 12 years but were unable to have children of their own. Although Tim mentioned not needing children to make their lives complete, they decided to venture into adoption as a means of sharing and transmitting the completeness. Julie seemed more excited about the idea of adoption and mentioned that it was a dream shared by both. Finally, in
Sure.
1984, they were notified of the availability of adoption of Beth and Jonathan. They were surprised by the speed of the process, and they were told that they were normal and healthy, as if they were children without a past, like two blank books. Later, they obtained information regarding the living conditions that both children had before their adoption, and discovered that the children lived in a despicable environment. Both showed signs of having been mistreated and abandoned, and their food and hygiene conditions were precarious. Beth showed signs of having been sexually abused by her father and could spend a whole day alone with a box of cereal to eat. Jonathan lived reclining in a crib surrounded by urine and dirty diapers, and his head was misshapen from having spent so much time in the same pose. While his back was completely flat, his forehead had bumps. The boy was 7 months old, and the lack of stimulation had affected his abilities. He could not raise his head or turn around. After a short time, they noticed that Beth began to show aggressive and sexual behaviors that were gradually increasing, mainly directed towards her brother, but also towards her adoptive parents and domestic animals, through hitting, kicking, the use of pins to prick them, pinching her brother's genitals, self injurious genital masturbation in public places, and confessions about wanting to kill Jonathan, Tim, and Julie. When they were overwhelmed by this situation, they decided to take Beth to Dr. Ken Maggot, a clinical psychologist specializing in abused children, who conducted this interview with Beth.
What? I'm sitting here trying to make a damn sandwich. I'm like, what? Misshapen head for being in the wrong position for too long?
Well, not wrong, left. If the baby, so baby's skull is soft,
Right
right?
logic. Yes, absolutely. This is insane.
So a baby's skull is still soft. So if you leave it on its side for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, what's going to happen? It's
Well,
going to
what
flatten it. It's going to shove the skull, and you're going to get
that way?
right.
Well, so
I'll be right back.
what